Adjustment of agenda, including consent agenda. You have the Collector's Report Summary, July 2020, Investment Report Summary, July 2020, and a final pay request for Insituform Technologies USA, LLC for the CIPP Slip Lining Project 2020.
Okay, any questions about any of these items?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Holtmeyer, seconded by Hydridge, to approve the items on the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you approve the items. Thank you.
Priority items, mayor's presentations, appointments and reappointments, police department reappointments.
Okay, so this evening we have several reappointments to the police department. Officer Nolan Crawford, Officer Greg Garrett, Officer Casey Hill, Officer Charles Shear, and Officer Paul Pfeiffer. So,
You have a wonderful group of officers here, as all our officers are. They work hard to keep the citizens safe and to work with the public in doing so. They're well respected by their peers and in the community. You have from just over a year of service to 20 years of service here, so. But all of them are fantastic, and I'd recommend you reappoint them.
good group of guys.
Yes, they are.
Any questions or comments?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Hydridge, seconded by Obermark, to approve the reappointment of Officer Nolan Crawford, Officer Greg Garrett, Officer Casey Hill, Officer Charles Shear, and Officer Paul Pfeiffer. Again, this is for a one-year term, as always. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you approve the reappointments. Thank you.
Thank you, council.
Thank you, Chief.
Citizens' comments.
Is there anyone here tonight who would like to address the council on any item that is not on the agenda? Okay,
Report of department heads.
any reports?
Yeah, I'll just give council an update. Today was the first day of bulk trash pickup with our new waste hauler, Waste Connections. We were experiencing some issues in regards to construction debris and the definition of that. We do consider construction debris as something that we don't pick up. So if you were to demolish a deck or something of that nature, we do not pick that up. They took that very seriously in the sense of that some 2x4s and maybe a couple pieces of drywall, those type of things were not. We did address that about midday with their haulers. They should have went back and took care of that this morning or this afternoon, and I don't foresee any issues into the future this week. So it's just some growing pains there. So just be patient while we kind of get that transitioned.
So they didn't pick it up, but we did.
They did not pick it up. We told them to go pick it up, and they did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I did.
Sorry. Yeah.
But normally, we do not pick that up.
We do not pick up.
We did not.
We did not. No.
Yeah.
No. And there is, I mean, you can imagine there's a little gray area there about what construction debris is. It's kind of a, the way I described it was if you're building something, you're tearing something down, I think it's pretty obvious. If it's like a hobby of, a few 2x4s in a trash can, that might be a little different animal. So again, they're trying to follow by the rules we set forth, but those rules are a little gray. So we're working through that.
Okay, very good. Anyone else?
Ordinances and resolutions. An ordinance amending Chapter 400, Attachment 1 of the Code of the City of Washington, Missouri.
Holtmeyer.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer.
So this is this first one is a code amendment that we talked about 2 meetings ago. We had a public hearing, and the first one is amending the table in our zoning code to allow for counseling services as a special use permit in C1 and C2. This is just an oversight, we think, from a previous amendment, and we think this will be a benefit to the code. So,
Okay, any questions or comments?
An ordinance amending Chapter 400, Attachment 1 of the Code of the City of Washington, Missouri. Holtmeyer,
Aye.
Pettit. Aye. Obermark.
Aye.
Hydrich.
Aye.
Hatchke.
Aye.
Wessels.
Aye.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance amending Section 400.095G, Section 400.335B, and Section 400.340F of the Code of the City of Washington, Missouri.
Volkmar. Sorry.
Introduced by Councilwoman Pettit.
All right, and this is also a code change that we had a public hearing for that same night. The first one here, this 095G, is increasing the height in C2 general commercial to 4 stories. As we discussed last time, when that was previously written, that was to match our tallest ladder at that time. For a ladder truck, we have different technology now for fire codes and fire ratings that's kind of outdated and antiquated, so we upped that to just an additional story or another 15 feet. 400.335B, this is for cell towers, and this is upping that to 200 feet maximum for the height, and then the restrictions for section 400.340F on setbacks. If you remember beforehand, it only had setbacks from residential structures. This does have the change from setback from any structure, residential or commercial, but does have that caveat that council, P&Z and council can approve these on a case-by-case basis and conditionalize them above and beyond or less than when they're approved for, which was what was recommended by staff and at the public comment section from some tower tower companies at that meeting. So,
Okay, any questions of Sal regarding these items?
all right, thank you.
An ordinance amending Section 400.095G, Section 400.335B, and Section 400.340F of the Code of the City of Washington, Missouri. Holtmeyer.
Aye.
Pettit.
Aye.
Obermark.
Aye.
Heidrich.
Aye.
Hatchke.
Aye.
Wessels.
Aye.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a sanitary sewer easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Big Elm LLC.
Patke.
Introduced by Councilman Patke.
This is the easement to which the sanitary sewer that serves Meadow Lake Farm resides within. That pipe has been in the ground for quite some time. This is just a clean, or not a cleanup, but obviously we got to have that pipe in an easement. So basically they grant that to us as part of the original development agreement that we had with the property owner to get sewer to Meadow Lake Farms.
Okay, any questions, comments?
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a sanitary sewer easement deed by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Big Elm LLC. Holtmeyer.
Aye.
Pettit.
Aye.
Obermark.
Aye.
Heidrich.
Aye.
Hatchke.
Aye.
Wessels.
Aye.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an amendment to sale contract by and between the City of Washington, Missouri, the County of Franklin, Missouri, B&M Metro Properties LLC, and Little Elm LLC.
Volkmar.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer.
This would go ahead and be another, I think, hopefully the last of an amendment to the sales contract. This does a couple of things, and Mark, just correct me if where I trip. Basically, it extends this to November the 30th of 2020. The purchaser is hereby requesting to change the name of B&M Metro Properties to Little Elm LLC. And then the third is what is next on your agenda would be a resolution to allow the city council to approve to waive the 35% alcohol sales limit as stated in 3.13C of the development agreement. That is your resolution that follows this. Just to be very clear, and Joe is here, we've had some correspondence today, but I believe in the development agreement, the city can go ahead and waive that if they so choose. Just so everybody knows, we're only proposing to waive that for the Exhibit A that's within your packet, which is the subject property, which is the 30 acres. And that's the amendment to the agreement for the sale. So this is just reflects this 30 acres, not other parts of Phoenix Center development too.
Okay. Are there any comments or questions? Joe, did you have something? Okay, if you want to give us your name and address. So,
Joe Bernacci, 4442 Highway 100, Labadie, Missouri. My question is if you would consider not taking any action on that this evening. I would like to have time to review this with our legal counsel and see if this is something that we agree with and if the city does in fact have the right to do that change.
okay, I don't know.
In order to meet the closing date of November 30th, it really needs to be approved tonight. The amendment needs to be approved tonight. The resolution is the next item that's on the agenda. Under the terms of the development agreement, there is some very specific language that says that the city, that you can't operate certain businesses, including bars, restaurants, taverns, where alcohol sales will exceed 35% of the gross revenue of that business without the approval of the city. And the language says that the approval is not to be unreasonably withheld. So it's really not, under the terms of the development agreement, it's really not up to anybody but the city whether to allow alcohol sales on that 30-acre property, so.
And if this was someplace else located along Highway 100 in Zone C2,
Right.
we would not, this would not even come before you.
Right, that development is probably the only commercially zoned property in the city of Washington where alcohol sales are restricted or prohibited. I can't think of, unless it's within 1,000 feet of a church or something, but
Do you have any restaurants out there that serve alcohol?
Well, alcohol sales in excess of 35% is what is prohibited by
Oh, yeah, you
the
have a-
operating easement agreement. And this would put the city's action in conflict with the operating easement agreement, which is a recorded document. And my question is, our development company owned the property when the OEA, operating easement agreement, was recorded. And I believe that that would make this property subject to the conditions and restrictions in the OEA.
and that's really a separate issue.
All I'm asking is that the city delay action on that until we have a time to review it and see if there are any issues from our perspective.
And what I'm suggesting is that there's really no reason to delay. That's really a separate issue and isn't really relevant to whether or not you approve this amendment to the sale contract or the resolution. That's really a separate issue.
Is there a reason that was put in the first set or the first development?
I think Joe could answer that question probably better.
I couldn't hear him.
He asked, is there a reason why that was put in, that provision was put in to begin with?
On the alcohol sales?
Yes.
That was request of Target and Kohl's. The three approving parties of the operating easement agreement are the developer, Target, and Kohl's.
And Joe, do you have any reason to think that they are going to have a problem with it being in this other section?
I can't tell you what's on their mind, but it was a condition that they were adamant about having in the OEA agreement when it was put together. We've asked for other changes over the passage of time and have received none. So, unfortunately, with large companies like that, sometimes the easiest answer is no.
Darren, will you explain this again?
Sure.
This is
You have two things
I'm
in front of
conflicting
you.
here.
So you have an ordinance, the first ordinance that's on 7D is basically they're requesting an amendment to the sale contract. One would move the closing date to November 30th. I don't remember what the last closing date contract was, but that would go to November 30th. The second item on here would be that they're changing the name from B&M Metro Properties to Little Elm LLC. And then the third change would be that we waive the 35% alcohol sales limit as stated in the 3.13C of the development agreement. That is the second part, which is the resolution, which is the next item on your agenda.
Okay.
So the item 7E is a resolution that would do away with that, and you can see that in the second paragraph. It says, whereas section 3.13C of the agreement provides, and it goes on to say, and then if you see the exhibit, it clearly shows that this is basically the 30 acres that the city and the county jointly own. A concern would be is that if you do not go ahead and move forward with the amendment to the agreement, you could jeopardize the sale of the property.
We have been pushing the buyer to proceed with closing on this transaction. In fact, there was some discussion, not that I was involved in, but that I was made aware of, where the decision was, you're either going to close or we're done. We're going to move on. We're going to find another buyer. So then they came up with this amendment to the sale contract to close by November 30th. They are assigning the contract from B&M Metro Properties, which was the original buyer, to Little Elm LLC, which is going to be the ultimate buyer. The last part of that about the alcohol sales is really not a condition to the approval of the amendment to the sale contract. That's really a separate item, which is the resolution. So, and I would say one more thing. Jill mentioned an operating easement agreement. The city is not a party to that agreement. Apparently, the only three parties are his company, Target, and Kohl's. That does not involve the city. If that agreement affects this 30 acres, well, then that's between them and the ultimate purchaser of that property. It does not involve the city. That's a private agreement between those three parties.
But Mark, my question is, if the property, the 30-acre tract, is not subject to the conditions and restrictions in the OEA, since it's a recorded document.
And all I can tell you, Joe, is they've had since January of this year to do their due diligence. If that was recorded and if it affected that 30 acres, they had plenty of time to find that out and to make that determination. Maybe they've decided, yeah, we know it's there, but we're going to go ahead, we're going to buy the property anyway. I don't know. I don't represent them. I don't know what went through their head. But they signed the contract back in mid-January of this year, and they've had 10 or 11 months to try to figure out whether they want to go forward and close, and now they've made the decision they are going to close. So if it's of record, they've had plenty of time to find that out.
It is recorded.
So apparently they've satisfied themselves one way or the other.
Well, it raises another question and concern in my mind. If you can arbitrarily, from my viewpoint, make a change to the agreement and the documents as I understand them, what would prevent the city or even a new owner of this property making changes that are detrimental to Phoenix Center 2? That's my primary interest.
I read the development agreement. I really didn't focus on any part of it other than this particular part because that's the only thing that was at issue currently. I don't want to say this definitively, but to the best of my recollection, this is the only provision that the city was allowed to change unilaterally.
Okay, that was a question I had because I really wasn't even aware of this situation with alcohol sales. And when I read it this evening, I went by the office before I came to the council meeting. Long story short, it's in direct conflict with the OEA, as I said, which raises a concern on our part.
Yeah.
concern is the rest of the development. Your concern is the rest of the development, not necessarily this track, what we're doing tonight, but what it may do to the rest of the development for yourself.
Well, it is all the parties living up to the agreement, so there's not a problem further down the road. As you may or may not recall, the development that gave that property to the city of Washington and Franklin County. I just want to make sure that we're not going to have some issue because of the sale. I don't care about the sale. That's fine. What I care about is the use. So what I'm asking for is that you not take action until we have a chance to pursue from our end.
But from our standpoint, though, if we don't take action tonight, we run the risk of not selling the property.
I understand that. I've been down that road myself.
And Joe, you think this 30 acres is part of that agreement, is what you're saying?
I do. The boundary of the SID district and the boundary that I saw in the exhibits to the OEA, that property description, that legal description included the 30-acre tract. That was my understanding of it. So in my mind, recorded document should be sitting there for all the world to see if they look for it. And if it is a legal restriction, then they can't do it.
Well, when you, I assume when you gave that 30 acres to the county and the city, there was some kind of title that went along with that or something?
There was a deed, yes.
And wouldn't that remove it from that?
I don't think so.
I think if I could explain it this way, you can have private restrictions on a piece of property with regards to what type of commercial businesses can go on a piece of property. The city, however, can go ahead and have, if they've got a zoning district in place that allows it, and they don't have those restrictions, they can still move on that property. It's between those two private entities of whether or not they wish to go ahead and enforce those restrictions.
Right, we do not and cannot and never have tried to enforce private restrictions between private parties. That's not within our purview. It's not within our authority to do that. The other thing I would mention to you is, I don't know when that development agreement was executed, the only tenant that was in there that we knew that was coming in there at that time, I think, was Target, because they were specifically carved out of some of the requirements in that agreement.
Well, Target and Kohl's were both a real participant because that's part of the OEA.
Well, I mean, we knew Target was there because, like I said, they were kind of carved out of some of those requirements. I don't know that document that he's referring to was of record prior to the time that the property was conveyed to the city.
It was.
County.
It was, Mark.
Well, and if that's the case, then when they did their due diligence to buy that property, clearly they know it was there.
Yeah, the OEA was recorded prior to us transferring title to the city and county.
Well, and if that's the case, then the potential buyer should know that that's there, and they may have decided to go ahead and purchase the property anyway.
Again, I'm not concerned about the sale. I'm concerned about the use. And all I'm asking that you folks do is to not take action on it tonight.
And the short answer is, we don't know what the use is going to be there. We've heard some things. We've seen nothing concrete about any particular use that's going there.
Thank you for your time.
Mark, say again, I'm sorry, Mayor,
Go ahead.
by tabling or taking any more time, we run the risk of not sale. Is that correct, what you said earlier?
That's correct. They are moving forward with a subdivision that also includes the 2 acres that we would have for the water tower, potential water tower site, and a potential fire station site. That is also included with that. That subdivision plat was scheduled to go before planning and zoning in November, and then also approved at to be on the agenda for your approval on November the 16th, your second meeting in November. That would clear the way, as well as possibly the contract for sale between the city and the county, so that we can own that 2 acres exclusively for ourselves for those purposes. And all of those could take place at the end of the month in November.
Right, all of this is being timed towards a November 30th closing. So anything that delays that runs the risk that we will lose that sale.
Well, haven't they stalled on us a few times on this sale? I mean, why can't we push the closing date back a month?
They've been doing their due diligence. I don't know, again, I don't know what exactly they've been doing or what that is entailed, because I don't represent them. I'm not privy to that. But we have basically, within the last month or so, went to them and said, either you're going to close or you're not. We're not going to grant any more delays. We're going to close this thing or we're going to go look for another buyer. So we've essentially said, no more continuances. We want to get this thing closed. We want to get this thing over with. So it would be a little bit inconsistent at this point to say, well, we need another 30 days. There really isn't any authority in the contract for us to extend it for another 30 days.
Any other comments or concerns, questions?
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an amendment to sale contract by and between the City of Washington, Missouri, the County of Franklin, Missouri, B&M Metro Properties LLC, and Little Elm LLC. Holtzmeyer,
Aye.
Pettit,
Aye.
Obermark,
Aye.
Heidrich,
Nay.
Hetzke,
Aye.
Wessels.
Aye.
Okay, the ordinance has passed 5-1. Okay, by your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
A resolution granting approval for bars, taverns, or restaurants or other establishments whose reasonably projected gross revenues from the sale of alcoholic beverages for on-premises consumption exceeds 35% of the annual gross revenues of each business, of such business in Phoenix Center 2.
Sorry, resolution.
Okay. So I have a question. Okay, well, it's a
Resolution.
resolution, so we have a motion by Patke.
You need a second.
And we'll need a second. Okay, so we have a motion by Patke and a second by Holtmeyer. So is the, when I read this again, are we talking about in the 2-acre?
Just the 30 acres,
The 30 acres in general.
property?
just what we're selling.
Okay. We're not talking about the other portion. We're just
Correct.
talking about what we're selling.
Correct.
Okay. Any comments or questions? Okay.
Did you want a roll call vote on this, Sandy, or did you want to?
Probably wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, it wouldn't hurt, sure.
Okay. Holtzmeyer,
Aye.
Pettit,
Aye.
Obermark,
Aye.
Heidrich,
Nay.
Hetzke,
Aye.
Wessels.
Aye.
Okay, by your vote, you approve the resolution. Thank you.
Commission, committee, and board reports. Preliminary plat, 6180 Bluff Road.
Sal?
So this is just a very simple subdivision. This is the Bray Farm out at Bluff and 100, goes along Westlink here. They're wanting to break off the house into a 10-acre parcel on its own. No plan for development or anything. It's just strictly for their own, own personal reasons. But here's the plat that was submitted, Lot 1. It does show 10 acres, and it cuts right in between the barn and the house here. It meets setbacks and minimum lot size of the agricultural zone district. So again, pretty clear here. This is just showing, what it'll kind of look like breaking that off. And so we recommend approval. It did go to P&Z last week, and they voted unanimously to move it through.
Any comments or questions?
Do you know why they cut off their one building? Is that the barn you said?
Yeah, it's just not part of the home. They wanted the residence on its own piece, separate from the farm.
Are they interested in selling that plot of land or not?
No, I just think this is strictly just financing
Okay.
for the home.
So a lot line through the existing structure is not a problem?
It's not through the structure.
Not through the structure,
It
it's
splits
between
it.
them.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Through the lot.
Through it, I'm sorry.
It's hard to tell, but yeah, it seems like it's really close, but this is such a big piece that there's in between there. Yeah, we're fine.
Okay.
This is the only piece of property that you have within the city that's zone agricultural.
Yep.
We had the Miller Post was also before they turned it over to the city.
Only one left?
This is the only one that's in the city, yeah. And so both the 10 acres, that's the reason why I had to do 10 acres. That's the minimum lot size for agricultural zoning.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, what's the remainder, Sal?
It's 150 total, so.
Any other questions or comments?
All right, thank you.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve this.
Make a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Hydrich, seconded by Obermark, to approve the preliminary plat at 6180 Bluff Road. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you approve the plat. Thank you.
An ordinance approving the final plat of Brahe Acres in the city of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri.
Patke.
Introduced by Councilman Patke. Any questions? This is the ordinance that follows the previous item. Questions or comments?
An ordinance approving the final plat of Brahe Acres in the city of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri. Holtmeyer,
Aye.
Pettit.
Aye.
Obermark.
Aye.
Heidrich.
Aye.
Hatchke.
Aye.
Wessels.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
Mayor's report.
Don't really have anything this evening. Mark, did you want to give us a report at all tonight?
Good evening, Council. Really, the only thing I have to report is, based on Friday's report I emailed to council members, you can see that we've made a reversal as far as COVID spread. We were enjoying a nice little downward trend, but we've had a significant reversal. As a result of that reversal, all three of the metrics that we use to measure whether we're going to allow city property to be rented and used for large events are in the red this week. New cases, the 14-day average is over 25. It's 30-something. I think it was 33 point something. Hospitalizations are up and deaths are up 2-week, 14-day period compared to 14-day rolling average compared to 14-day rolling average. So those are all up. So I have sent notice to Chamber in downtown Washington, but I don't believe actually there are any large-scale events. So it actually should have a little significance, as far as I know.
Mark, that first one says specifically based on Franklin County. Are all three of them based on Franklin County numbers?
All three are based on Franklin County,
All right.
Councilman. Yes, they are. Yep. Any questions?
Okay, thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anything else? City Administrator's report.
I just have one item to mention to you tonight. We found out today, it was announced that our city clerk, Mary Tremon, will be retiring December the 1st of this year. So we'd like to congratulate her tonight for all her years of service, so.
Thank you.
Every day Saturday.
Council comments?
Any comments?
Did you want a executive?
I do have, yes, I do have a couple items to discuss in executive session, please.
Public vote on whether or not to hold a closed meeting to discuss personnel, legal, and real estate matters pursuant to Section 610.021 RSMO 2000. Holtmeyer.
Aye.
Pettit. Aye. Obermark.
Aye.
Heidrich.
Aye.
Patchkey.
Aye.
Wessels.
Okay.